I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is More Than Blockchain. On this episode, I'm super excited to have back on Brian Naughton. Brian is an author, one of my favorite, if not my favorite crypto authors in Web3, writing about blockchain and just tech advancements in general. Brian joined us at a previous episode, I believe episode 122. He's back on again. Brian, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jarrett. Thanks. Great to see you again.
It's always good to have you on. I referenced that you were on episode 122. I'm going to put that link above if you're on YouTube, and that link will be in the description below if you're listening to it on podcast platform. On that particular episode, we focused in on Brian's article, which was really talking about meme coin mania, the meme coin world, what's happening with meme coins. And today we're actually going to probably continue on some of that trajectory as we talk about two of his new articles. One is about what he calls crypto's Gutenberg moment, which actually has to do with tokenizing or creating meme coins, or basically being able to create, I guess, digital scarcity with the click of a button. And then we're also going to be talking about an article that's entitled Convergence. Coinbase initiates the first AI to AI crypto transaction. So, Brian, let's dive in. I think you wanted to start with the Convergence Coinbase AI to AI crypto transaction. So tell us about that, and I guess share super candidly why you decided to write about that, and set the context of why that's so important for people to understand.
Yeah. Well, I've been sort of thinking about the intersection of AI and crypto for a while, and I was kind of riffing on the concept of calling it AI3 as a kind of like a buzzy catchword for AI plus Web3. So I've kind of, and the other thing I kind of figured out through thinking about that stuff is that an AI economy is inevitable. We have a creator economy, for example, and I think we all know that AI is so much bigger than that. So it seems to me it's like it's an inevitable development that AI is going to become a kind of an economic entity in its own right. And then, once you get past the inevitability of an AI economy, you begin to realize it's not going to run on the Swift network. It's not going to be using fax machines and debit cards and credit cards and bank managers and 9-to-5 office hours and all of that stuff. And the obvious conclusion is that it's going to be using crypto, because crypto is essentially a global frictionless network for exchanging value. So that was where I came in to this new news story from. And it just the story itself is that on August the 30th, Coinbase announced that their kind of internal skunkworks team had initiated the world's first AI to AI crypto transaction. So that basically means one AI. In this case, it was to do with exchanging tokens or crypto for tokens. So tokens for tokens, but some of the tokens were AI tokens associated with a large language model. So essentially sort of, an LLM resource in exchange for crypto. And the crypto was, I believe it was USDC, which is a dollar denominated stable coin. And the transaction happened on Base. But boiling all of that down, basically what happened is one machine exchanged value with another machine without any human intermediary. So that struck me as an extremely big deal, really.
Yeah, I think it's a massive deal. And it's one of those moments in history, I think, where you called it AI3, which I absolutely love, with AI and Web3 coming together. And there's just so much news in the world right now, not only in crypto, not only in tech, but also around the world with geopolitics. We have the US election coming. Some people feel like we're in a recession. There's just so many things going on that happened, and it was just like swept under the rug, right? It's like most people have no idea that it happened. So for me, as someone who feels like a documentarian of tomorrow, which is what I hope to do with this podcast, it's great to have you on to say this out loud, because I'm sure in 5 or 6 years, somebody will look back and be like, oh my gosh, these guys actually talked about that. Like, this was a moment on the internet, even for 5 seconds, where people stopped and was kind of like, oh, I remember where I was when I heard about that, because I do remember I was going through Twitter, and I saw that Brian Armstrong had tweeted that. And I think as you had said, maybe off mic, it was a longer, it was like a soliloquy about what had happened and how it worked. And it's a massive moment. And I know we're going to dive into your other article, which is calling crypto's Gutenberg moment. So without stealing that analogy, what's something that's analogous for you in tech history to kind of parallel to this? When this happened, is it like when man walked on the moon? Like, what is the thing that you think is analogous to this without using the Gutenberg moment, because you already used that?
Yeah, I mean, it's massive. I mean, it's kind of we're at this kind of cusp of a technological shift, transformation. People call it the fourth industrial revolution or whatever. I quite like Raoul Pal's characterization of it, and I know you're also fond of his work and the stuff that he puts out. And he calls it the exponential age. And I think two components of this are crypto and artificial intelligence. They're both technologies that are going to, in a very short period of time, completely transform the world that we live in. And I mean, it is a kind of a moon landing moment, although with a certain amount of trepidation as far as I'm concerned, because there's on the one hand, people are thinking, well, AI isn't really AI and it's just a stochastic parrot, and large language models are just kind of fooling us into believing that they're capable of reasoning and all the rest of it. And then there are other people saying that AGI is, it's this decade and superintelligence isn't much further, and what's going to happen to employment. And, it's like, on one level, the idea of AIs suddenly being able to engage in financial transactions without human oversight could be a kind of a terrifying prospect. So, I mean, whatever it is, it's a transformational kind of significant development. I think we can say that at the very least.
I think so. And while you were saying that, I was trying to look up something super briefly there, because I think OpenAI here it is. OpenAI has just released its new AI 01 or O, I think it's 01 or O1 model, which is able to think and reason at a PhD student level. And that's just happened. And I'm looking at the timestamp. That happened 14 hours ago. And this is me reading a note off Instagram of probably one of the biggest AI accounts that just kind of keeps me in the loop of what's going on with AI, because it's all moving so fast. And so, when did ChatGPT come out? Was that November of 2022? In my head, it was November 30th of 2022, which is not even 2 years ago from the time of this recording. Mm-hmm. And when that came out, it was kind of just like an enhanced Google search, right? You could have it write a haiku, Now with ChatGPT, my gosh, the things that you are able to do. And so as that exponentially grows, and I love how you call that Raoul Pal the exponential age. And yes, I think he's one of the smartest guys on the internet, kind of talking about these things. And I think that because I think he's wildly aware he doesn't know all the answers, and he says that all the time. He's just a student of what's happening, and he's trying to react and synthesize quicker than everyone else, which I think is the best way to approach it. But yeah, AGI, how close is that? When thinking back to November 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT came out, I remember saying, oh, dude, we're so far away. We're good. And now, as someone who works in media professionally and has this podcast, which I think is absolutely going to blow up, I'm putting that out in the universe in 2025, I'm wildly aware that what I'm now trying to do, and I think I've shared this with a couple people, I don't know if I shared this with you, I'm trying to build More Than Blockchain as a brand, as something that people can listen to and trust up to a certain level, then AI my voice and walk away, and then sit somewhere on a beach, be like, I want to put up a new episode. I just saw Brian's new article about X, Y, and Z. Let me put something together, type something up using AI, and then have it go in my voice, and it goes out to the airwaves. That is exactly also what Raoul Pal's doing. I've been wanting to do this long before I saw that he was going to do it. But have you seen this news that he said that he was? We will get back to the AI, but I want to, since you touched on Raoul Pal, have you seen how he's talked about how he's trying to create a Raoul LLM, which basically understands, it's gone through hours and days and years of all the content he's created. And then as a paying member to, I guess,
Real Vision.
the macro and Real Vision or the macro investor, whatever, he has multiple pay.
Global macro investor, I think it is, or something, isn't it?
Where you would get on and it's 2 a.m. in the morning and maybe you can't get to RAL directly, but you would ask RAL LLM, what should I do in this? What do you think about this stock? And it would, have you seen this?
I haven't seen it, no, but I'm kind of more broadly familiar with the concept of people effectively, whatever. I guess it's kind of digitizing themselves, really, isn't it?
It is, and it's something I think many musical artists are going to do, and they're just going to say, you know, Drake's going to hit a point where he's just not going to be able to go on tour and not able to do all these things, but he still wants to like find cash flow and make money. So he's going to basically sell the rights and the intellectual property of his voice and all of a sudden start putting out albums. And so anyways, I tell people all the time, by 2026, if this isn't basically mostly AI with me occasionally coming on with me, not just like my AI me, I think I'm going to be behind the curve and or ready to be replaced. Because they've said that even by 2025, mid 2025, next summer of 2025, which is only about 9 or 10 months away, 40 to 50% of the stuff you're going to see on social media or made by content creators, which are kind of like underpaid journalists, is all going to be made by AI. So I kind of feel like you either get with the times or you get in trouble. And I don't know, for you writing this article about a deeper dive into AI's sharing value, did you have any of these kind of like different inner feelings about what AI may or may not do to the world and maybe, as you said, take jobs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a confusing mixture of feelings, really. I mean, the worst, I do believe that the worst case scenario is unbelievably bad, and and I'm no expert, but I've listened to a lot of stuff and I've used the tools, and I've also seen the predictions of AGI be sort of like wildly like people underestimating the rate of advancement towards AGI, for example. And there was something weird about the whole OpenAI firing of Sam Altman at the time when it all went down over a weekend, and then he had some kind of like, war room kind of response, and before the board knew it, he was kind of back in charge because he'd got the backing of all the other people, the people who were working with him or whatever. But the way that all went down, it seemed like a real kind of knee jerk to something that had happened within the organization. And I suspect what that was about was associated with some of the unsubstantiated leaks that came out on social media surrounding the affair, which were to do with something called Q-learning. And effectively what that was suggesting was that there had been substantive developments in the direction of AGI that the board were uncomfortable with because they didn't know anything about it, and there was no kind of sense of ethical oversight. It really is a brave new world. We don't know, and then there's this whole black box thing where we really don't know what's going on, within the world of these AIs in terms of how they process information. For example, how they can respond in a language that they haven't been trained on. There are lots of kind of anomalies. And if you listen to Eric Schmidt, former Google chief, he's put some recent stuff out talking about AI and how he thinks it's on a much stronger kind of collision force with disrupting employment and all the rest of it than many people suspect. And one of the things he talks about, bringing it back to your earlier points, is context windows, because now really what the LLMs is a kind of a natural language interface that has some sense of intelligent reasoning and so on, but the real unlock for for most applications is the size of the context window. I mean, for example, if you're familiar with using ChatGPT or Claude, you can upload, a document and start talking about that and refine and re-edit or put some research notes in. But at some point, you run out of the space to discuss that topic within the context window, and then you have to start a new chat. If you can imagine a context window that knows everything about your life or everything about your company, then the possibilities are, well, sort of magnitudes, higher in terms of their usefulness. At, say, for example, an enterprise scale AI that knew everything about your company would be extremely powerful.
One of the things about crypto that has always been so interesting to me, this for me is like a backbone of Bitcoin. I guess we'll talk about Bitcoin and then Bitcoin is a crypto. I feel Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. I know on the internet people say Bitcoin is not crypto and vice versa. One of the things that was always so interesting is that Bitcoin essentially, and this is my interpretation, right? Satoshi creates Bitcoin because Satoshi's like, humans essentially can't control, they don't have the ability to not be gluttonous with the financial system and greedy. So I'm going to create this thing, and there's only going to be 21 million, and there's going to be a schedule in which all 21 million are put out into circulation, because I have to rely on code because I can no longer rely on humans. And now we have the computing power and the internet to be able to kind of make these things happen. So at the back of Bitcoin, especially now in the world where we live in, where I think we're about to go into massive amounts of quantitative easing, which is printing and the devalue and the debasing of currency because of human needs, right? So if that's the back of Bitcoin, for me, philosophically, it's like, I'm going to trust in code because I know that over a long enough period of time, we've seen it. We cannot trust in humans. Governments are eventually just going to try to print their way out of problems, right? Rome did it with clipping gold coins. The US government did it in 2008 when their back was against the wall. We just can't do this anymore. Fast forwarding that into AI, and it's like, maybe we rely on AI, as you just said, maybe an AI CEO who knows every intimate detail about the company, all the way down to it knows every single receipt that was just, put in for reimbursement from some sales rep who was at a conference, to a potential merger and acquisition, to a potential IPO with this brand. They have everything. That person, as you've just said, and I'm going to paraphrase for you, you can cut me off, that person likely is going to be able to make a better decision about the future of the company than any human being who has emotions, who may not think logically and may think, you know what, we don't want to M&A because the CEO of that company and I don't get along, right? Whatever it is. In that world, moving forward philosophically, I just don't see a way where Bitcoin or crypto, whatever, a protocol level, I think Bitcoin's the best example because I think it's the least likely to ever really be changed due to consensus. And it's the only one that doesn't have a CEO. That's super important too. Bitcoin or crypto, you could say either, and then AI are just going to go to places where humans can't go because they're not humans. So anyways, I've just said a bunch of stuff. I'm going to throw the mic back. And if anyone's listening and they now think I'm crazy, that's totally fine. Please unsubscribe. I want to throw the mic back to you and kind of get your take, because I think about that a lot. I look at decisions and I'm just like, that was made because the United States feels like they have to support this country because we've done it historically. I don't think it's the best decision, but it's like, you know what, that's my neighbor, let me help them out. I don't think it's the best decision, short term or long term, but yet we do it and it's okay. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like the geopolitical stuff is kind of perhaps more complicated, but if you look at it in purely in terms of things like logistics, for example, or government spending, or supply chains, or all of those kinds of things can be optimized by using financially empowered AIs in ways that are kind of incomprehensible to us at the moment. I mean, you can look at financial services, for example. You can imagine an arbitrage bot doing the work of that an entire department of human beings couldn't do at the moment in terms of exploiting arbitrage opportunities. But I think, one thing that strikes me is probably, and this isn't an original thought, other people have been saying similar things, but, are we going to see the first 2-person, 5-person, multi-billion-dollar enterprise, for example, because I think, maybe that's where the real sort of first wave of change is. People who are clued up on using this technology being able to compete and outperform some of the larger enterprises, because, once it gets to the point that you can deploy, whatever, 100 programmers or 100 social media experts, or whatever the professional function is, if you know what you're doing with agentic AI particularly, which is where you empower them not only to help you brainstorm and do work in the back room, but also to start executing on decisions, then we're into a whole new territory. And I think add the capacity to actually engage in commerce and make financial transactions into that mix, and we're in a completely different territory. So it may be that we'll have to kind of reassess what I can't remember what the World Bank jargon for it is now, but it used to be called SMEs when I was involved with NGOs. So yeah, like small to medium sized enterprises. It usually has a kind of like an economic kind of underpinning at the moment in terms of what the definition of an SME is. It's, with a certain number of employees, but it is also to do with its, its revenues and all the rest of it. So perhaps we're going to see small companies disrupt large companies.
I think as an example, we're already seeing that. I think, and I don't know how many people work at MicroStrategy, but I think what MicroStrategy is doing is already disrupting the way that people think about the stock market. You have a guy there just buying Bitcoin, and then when the Bitcoin price goes up, he's giving out more stock, and then the stock price also continues to rise. It's been the best performing stock in Wall Street, I think, over the last 24 months. Definitely over the last 4 years. I think it's even, but I don't know if it's outworked NVIDIA. That would be the only thing. That'd be the caveat. If somebody wants to check me and leave a comment and say I was wrong there, that'd be great. He's totally flipping the entire game on its head. And I think even what OpenAI has done, I don't know how many people are OpenAI, but they just hit $150 billion valuation. They're one of the most successful startups in the modern day, obviously all around AI. And so I know you said, what's not an original thought that, there's going to be a 2-person team like you and I are going to create a unicorn, right? $1 billion company. I just think that they're going to happen more often, because not only do you need less people to get to produce more, but the debasement of the currency, right? $1 billion company 15 years ago was a massive deal. Now $1 billion company, they seemingly just pop up, because if you can get, if you can prove $100 million annual recurring revenue and you're in a niche that's growing, right? 100 million ARR may give you somebody who's going to give you an investment at a valuation of $1 billion. Therefore, you're almost a unicorn. It's not even that you're producing, $1 billion as your monthly recurring revenue. So it gets really interesting when you get into the valuations, but I think we're definitely going to see them. And I think we're also going to see, Mr. Beast is not an original thought either, but Mr. Beast will be the first, if he's not already, the first $1 billion YouTuber. And that will only continue. And actually something that was floating around Twitter today, I just might as well bring up if I can find it. I do not know if I can find it, but it showed a picture of LeBron James, and then it was a picture of some lady on OnlyFans. And it said that in the last year, more money had been produced on OnlyFans or paid out to creators. It was like 6.6 billion than the entire roster of all NBA players. It was only like 4.4 billion. Those are the numbers I think I saw, 6.6 and 4.4. So you already have a creator economy, and OnlyFans really, to be fair, blew up in the pandemic, which was only 5 minutes ago in relative history. And their creators are already making 50% more than the NBA, one of the most popular sporting brands on the planet. if not maybe the biggest, definitely obviously in basketball, but I would say only second to maybe the English Premier League as an overall global brand. That's ridiculous. And that only shows that digital value is going to continue to grow relative to other perceptions of value. And I think even the way we value companies is changing. Because like you're saying, it used to be like, oh, is it a small or mid-sized enterprise, right? You know, how many employees do you have? That will tell me, because back in the day, it was like, oh, Brian has 50 employees underneath him. Brian's a boss. Now it's like, no. How much does Brian make? How much time does he have to spend with his family? It doesn't matter how many people he has underneath him, and what tools is he leveraging on the internet to be able to create value. So taking that idea and maybe going back to the convergence here and talking about this AI to AI, I wanted to ask, have you used USDC on Base? Because you said that, and I believe that was where the transaction was done.
No, I haven't actually used the Base network at all. I mean, I've followed its development, and I have an account on Coinbase. I should really get onto the Base network and check it out. But right now, I've got no meaningful business there other than, you know, experimenting. I'm already kind of like, over leveraged in meme coins on Solana, for example. So Solana seems to be the main kind of, I can't remember what the snooty term for that Bitcoiners use for chains that aren't on what they.
Oh, you can't remember? You can't remember, Brian? Is that what it is? You can't remember?
No, there's a term. There's a term that Bitcoin maxis call chains that aren't Bitcoin, basically. So yeah. I can't remember.
Oh, I'll say it. Yeah. I'll say it for you to make sure you never say it on mic. It's called shitcoins, and I've even heard the words shitcoinery on calls at work. So, and actually, we recently said that on a podcast. So, yeah, it is interesting to be a guy who works for a Bitcoin mining company, and yet I still have a lot of exposure financially to things that aren't Bitcoin. A lot of that is because I got in 2017 and I'm just still hodling. I'm like, this is cool. This is a project that's interesting. I want to continue to stay near this so I can learn about the future. But yeah, okay, you got a lot of exposure on Solana. I haven't been on Base. I have used USDC on Base, and it was the most frictionless thing I'd ever done in crypto. I will say that. And I even shouted out Coinbase and Base on a podcast I did for the mining company, which I'm sure people were like, come on, man. But you
sent you sent from one wallet to another wallet, or
so I was actually, there was a guy who stayed here in this apartment, actually in this exact room. I have a 2-bedroom 2-bath apartment down in Colombia. And he was a guy, and he stayed a couple nights, and he was like, how do you want me to pay? And I was like, you can Venmo me or Cash App, right? 2 US apps. I don't know if you guys have them. You'll probably have, if you don't have those, you have equivalents
like
in the UK.
We have Revolut and
okay, Revolut, exactly. Yeah. Revolut. And so I was like, you could do that. You could give me pesos. You could give me dollars. And I was joking. I'm like, you can give me crypto. And then I found out he was also in Web3. And so he had some Ethereum, but we didn't want to use Ethereum. So he had some USDC on Base, and he was like, I've been using this, and it's awesome because there's no fees and it's super frictionless. So that's especially with Coinbase Wallet. So he sent me that from his Coinbase wallet to my Coinbase wallet. It settled nearly instantaneously, and there was no fee. And I had USDC.
Do you have the Coinbase Smart wallet, the new wallet, or?
I haven't opened one yet. Opened one. I just have the.
So it just appeared in your Coinbase account, then basically.
It appeared in my Coinbase wallet. So actually, when I opened up my Coinbase wallet, it was before a time when Coinbase and Coinbase Wallet had really good connectivity. Mm-hmm. Now most people have their Coinbase wallet KYC'd with their Coinbase account. Yeah. I don't, and I actually really enjoy that because the Coinbase wallet is a great self-custody hot wallet that I can just kind of use. Yeah. But I will show you here if I can. Oh, wow, the things. Trending swaps on Base, Trump. Moby, Wolf, and Brett. I was talking to Aussie last night about Brett. We were talking a little bit about Brett. But yeah, here it is. And actually, I'll show this to the screen because no one can really get anything from here, but there it is. It says this asset is on Base, and I have about $110 in USDC. You can see my history underneath there where he was sending me $21, $25, but it settled instantaneously. Yeah. And I own it in a wallet that I own, which is really quite great. So,
and you never had to add any kind of widget for Base on your self custody wallet, or?
What do you mean, like add? What do you mean widget?
Well, you know, with MetaMask, you would have to go to the right network, like Matic or whatever, in order to receive assets. Or
I don't believe I had to do that.
Yeah.
And in fact, what we could do on another time is you should get the Coinbase wallet, and I'll send you $2 in Base, $2 in USDC on Base. And I mean, do you have the Coinbase wallet?
I do, yeah. I haven't downloaded a recent one because I know they were talking a lot about a smart wallet, but
They have the smart wallet, yeah.
Coinbase wallet from, I think I probably downloaded it 3 years ago or something.
Same thing. It's the same wallet that I have. I mean, we could even do, if you even want to send me, this is kind of crazy to do live on a podcast, but I love it. If you even send me your USDC on Base ID, I could send you $2 right now or $1, and you could just see how quickly it is. Do you have your phone on you now? Do you want to do that?
We can try. I might get stuck because it's a while since I've logged into my
Yeah, you're going to have to remember your 6.
And I've also changed phones since then. So
we'll see if you can get in. If you can get in.
It probably doesn't make very good television.
No, it might, because now we've built it up, and now people are like, well, I'm not going to click away now. And if anything, this is a really good clip.
Okay, I'm opening my wallet now. Let's see how far I get.
Yeah, open up your wallet and let me see. If you're at home, I would go to the search at the top.
Okay.
And then I would search USDC.
Okay, USDC.
And then you just want to choose the USDC with the little base thing, which for me is a default.
Okay, it is the default one. Okay, and then
receive. Hit copy and send that to me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
If you could send me that address on LinkedIn, that's going to be the easiest way for me to get it. Because if you send it on the chat on the call, I won't be able to get it.
Copy. Right. I mean, this really is kind of like, you know, if we can do this now, it's basically idiot proof, isn't it?
If we can do this on the call, it's going to be impressive. Okay, so I now see Brian. He's getting into his LinkedIn. He's going to drop me okay, I'm going to take this. I'm copying it. I'm going back into my wallet. I wish we had a screen share for this. We don't. I'm sorry, everyone. You're just going to have to believe me. And maybe Brian can show his screen. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say send USDC on Base. I'm going to send you $2 whole. Don't spend it all at one place. Maybe later. Let's do that. Paste. Okay. Yes, I see you have a funny name. I'm not going to say it out loud, so you can keep. And I have a funny name too, and you will not say that out loud. And I'm going to say, yes, looks good. And I'm just hitting confirm right now. There's no network fee because it's paid by Coinbase Wallet. And I'm unlocking my wallet, and I'm going to hit done. And it should come up with, it should be right into your wallet. Let me know when it is. Sending, and it says the name.
Yeah. I've just received it. Hang on, I'll see if I can. Well, I can't show it without revealing your name here. But
yeah, so don't do it. Don't do it because that name, and I can explain that later. But.
Okay, but I have received. It's actually in sterling. It's £1.52, but it's 2 USDC.
2 USDC. So we just did that on call.
September the 13th at 18:04 UK time. So yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that was actually faster than Solana.
It might be in and around faster than Solana. The other thing is the Solana network has not been as reliable historically. Yeah. Also, Base is really new. But the fact that we just did an exchange, will you send me your address? I send you some USDC on Base. That may have been one of the most frictionless things that has ever happened in crypto.
Yeah.
In Web3.
And it's free, you said as well, like USDC.
It's free.
Yeah. I mean,
it's free because it's on the Coinbase wallet. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that was the other point that Brian Armstrong mentioned when he was talking about AI to AI crypto transactions is that, you know, like we've just proved that it's instantaneous, but it's also free, which means that, you know, AIs can engage in all kinds of micro transactions where there's literally no friction, you know, and it's pretty much close to the speed of light, really, isn't it? You know, it's closer to the speed of light than sending an email to someone is.
If not, it's on the level. And I remember when I got into Bitcoin in 2017, I started to ask myself, how is it, and I've said this on mic a bunch of times, so I'm sorry if I'm boring people, but I think this is really important for people to understand. How is it that I can call Brian on WhatsApp and we can video call? How is it that I can send him a picture from South America to England, the UK, in a blink of an eye? How can I send him a text in a blink of an eye? If I can send him information in the blink of an eye, I should be able to send him value in the blink of an eye. And what you and I just did was that. And I will clip this and share it in Coinbase. If you see this, this is me applauding you for what you have done with your Coinbase wallet. Now, I know I would like to see it maybe outside of that ecosystem also be free. That probably is going to take some time, obviously. But overall, Coinbase, I just think you've done an amazing job, because here we just did it. Now, Brian has a certain name that I didn't want to share out loud, because then I would be revealing his wallet ID number. And I also have a name that you didn't want to share, but I think hopefully people will realize we're not lying about having shared $2 over the internet. We gain nothing from doing that. So if we could, though, maybe we just had our own little Gutenberg moment. Maybe somebody saw this and they're like, wow, that's a Gutenberg moment, in the sense that like you can replicate value quickly. But let's talk about your other article. We've kind of touched upon the AI to AI, and I think hopefully people step away and they think about that further, that like a machine can send money to a machine without needing a human. Crazy. Just like you and I just exchange value without needing a bank. It's a very big deal. Mm-hmm. Talk about your Gutenberg, and let's get into the thing I feel like you feel at home. Let's talk about some tokens.
Crypto's Gutenberg moment. I mean, on one level, it was a kind of a cheeky storytelling device. I mean, you have to kind of big things up a bit, don't you? Sometimes, you're serving someone a meal, you want to present it in a nice way rather than just tell them some boring old story. But there is, there's more than a grain of truth to it, which is that the movable type printing press transformed the economics of the written word of publishing. Before printing by movable type, it was based on people transcribing books by hand, and that meant that books, were not everyday objects, and they were owned largely by kings and barons and the rest of it. But it also meant that the church had a monopoly on God, for example, which was challenged during the Reformation, and the Reformation was the direct result of the Gutenberg printing press, because of the dissemination of alternative viewpoints and indeed the Bible itself. So Gutenberg's transformation was an economic one, really. It changed the economics of the word, so that publishing and writing a book, becoming an author, becoming an owner of books, became increasingly commonplace. And I think really that was the kind of the analogy I was trying to get across, is that now the same has happened in the world of crypto. Once upon a time, you needed, a team of lawyers and smart contract developers and a huge budget and a team of people to even consider launching a token, even if it was like an ERC token. If it was a token running on someone else's blockchain, it was still a very complicated business. Whereas now, Pump.Fun, which is a meme coin launch platform, which was launched in January, whilst the rest of the crypto sphere was fixated on the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs and the impending Bitcoin halving, was quietly launched on Solana and has been explosively received, in the sense that it's printed huge numbers in terms of revenues for the company that launched the platform, and has created a big stir on Solana about meme coins more generally. That was the sort of backdrop to the article. And basically what they've done is they've made it kind of just stupid simple for anyone, even a teenager in their bedroom, to launch a meme coin. So this is something that doesn't have any intrinsic value or use case other than its association with a meme. But all you need, therefore, is a name for the project, a picture that represents the project, which is usually whatever, a dog wearing a beanie hat, or Pepe is another one, which people will be aware with, and Brett, and some of the other ones that are the creations of Matt Fury, who seems to be very popular in this meme coin universe, and a ticker symbol, and perhaps a very brief abstract of what the project represents. Press a couple of buttons and you're launched onto their platform, where people can speculate on whether or not they think your meme coin is going to reach a critical mass through something called a bonding curve, which is a way of managing the investment into the project. And if it reaches a certain threshold, then it gets launched onto a decentralized exchange, and then it's live on the Solana blockchain, where it can be freely traded by anyone in the world.
That was a really good review of what it was, and bringing in the idea of the Gutenberg press and how that works. And have you been on the platform? I'm assuming yes. And now my question, is there like some Brian Naughton token I need to go buy on Solana?
There's a long story behind that, and that's something I'd rather tell you offline. But yes, is the answer. I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been part of what they call a dev team, which is like a team. Sometimes you have individuals, but I have absolutely no idea how an individual would try and manage the launch of a meme token, unless they were planning just purely on rug pulling it. Because the reality is, it's one of those things that you kind of that you give birth to, and a bit like a baby, you suddenly realise that that may have been an amazing kind of like painful and euphoric moment, but the hard work begins, like after the meme coin is born, because then you have a community to build, artwork to keep going, social media content. You've got to build a community on Telegram or wherever you're going to base your project. You've got to get people excited enough to share the content, etc., 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 etc. So I've been on that side, and I've also I've been on the investor side, and the investor side is a complete nightmare because there are so many rug pulls that basically, it's kind of like just. We have an expression here, I don't know if it kind of translates to North America or anywhere else, but pinning the tail on the donkey, which basically means, it's basically you're just tossing a coin as to whether or not you choose a project which isn't going to get rugged. And a rug pull is basically an operation where the dev team brings a project onto Pump.Fun or onto market, waits for people to invest in it, and then very rapidly sells all of their tokens and drains the liquidity out of the project. And it goes from whatever it might be a market cap of 10 million or something to virtually zero in one candle. And everyone gets wiped out because the token is worth nothing. And most people who invest in meme coins will attest to having lots of dust in their wallets, which is basically stuff that was worth maybe a few $100s or a few $1,000s at one point, which is now not even worth trying to sell back on the exchange because it's worth pennies basically. And you're better off in terms of statistically just holding on to it in the vain hope that one of them might resurrect itself at some point via what they call a CTO, which is a community takeover of a dormant project.
And that was a good PSA, ladies and gentlemen, of why you should probably not play around with meme coins. I have a lot of NFTs in my MetaMask that are now worth less than the network fee to exchange them. So that's like when you have a $20,000 car, but it needs $30,000 of damage. Well, it just sits there and it just rots in my MetaMask. I haven't played around with meme coins as much as I did play around with NFTs at the end of 2021, just because some of them were art I like, some of them I just thought were interesting projects, some of them I just wanted to get into the Discord at the time, and so you needed to be able to connect your MetaMask, prove that you had ownership to kind of get in. It was like, all right, $60 to get into this at a time where money didn't feel like it was worth anything. I was like, okay, whatever. So the Gutenberg press, I want to go back to that because I think that all throughout history, there's just been new tech that allow people to do things that before were, as you said, you needed an entire team, right? If you wanted to get a book out, and that's why you said only kings and barons had them. Well, today, that's kind of how I feel about this podcast. Because if this podcast were alive 26, 20, 30 years ago, it would have been called a radio station, right? It would have been called a radio program, and you would be calling in, right, from across the pond. But now,
excuse me,
there's so many tools for me to be able to do that. Even the tools I use to create More Than Blockchain, all of them are Gutenberg press ideas from Riverside, which I'm using to record. I'm going to give away all the keys right now. I have a website up on Squarespace, which was another thing that said, okay, how do we create codeless website options for people that aren't coders to be able to create a website and share that with the world? And then just in general, that's kind of what a podcast is. It's a low barrier of entry. As you said, though, like the baby analogy, it's easy to get your first episode up, but 99% of podcasts don't get past their 10th episode. And that's just because, like you said, I think, you know, with any child, it takes a village, right? And so it is difficult. So someday offline, you and I will talk about that. And I'm glad, please hold that, you know, keep that to yourself, just like we kept our Coinbase wallet IDs to ourselves, because there's things in Web3 that we just don't share publicly. Going back to this, the Pump.Fun, how many people are part of that team? Because I think that their revenue now is millions of dollars, maybe not billions, but like, you know, does that dovetail with what we were talking about earlier with, you know, small teams now being able to have crazy annual recurring revenue figures?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak generally for like highly successful meme coin projects, and like I don't want to sort of spoil the romantic notion of it for you, but the project that I've been involved in, it looked like it was going to take off, but it didn't really take off. It's still alive, and we were a 6-person development team, and at times it felt like, especially when you're just, you know, you're doing lots of other things, and this is just a kind of a side hustle, felt like a lot of work. You know, I was taking responsibility for keeping the Twitter account running, and whatever, you know, like keeping the morale going within the community on Telegram, and that felt like a full-time job for a few weeks, and I basically had to sort of pull back from it because the you know, the return on investment wasn't there. But if you're lucky enough for it to go the other way, then a 6-person team could be responsible, as it, you know, like with Dog with Hat, for example, which was one of the Solana meme coins that exploded. You know, that went up to a market cap of well, I think it was probably $4 or $5 billion at its peak so far, anyway. But we haven't really got to the bull run yet. And obviously, if you had an early stake in that, say for example, as a dev team, usually what would happen is you would have a dev wallet, which may also include some marketing, you know, some stake that you would have in the like they do with traditional cryptocurrency projects, that you know, there would be a certain amount for marketing and development purposes or whatever, and then also each team member might be allocated a certain amount too. I mean, in our case, what it meant was that the people who were involved in the project bought in early on the bonding curve when it was on Pump.Fun, but it might leave you, you know, with 1 or 2% of the project. So you can imagine, if you don't, you know, you might take profit on the way up, but if it got to a $4 or $5 billion market cap and you had 1 or 2% and didn't burn it all on the way up, then you'd have a considerable amount of money. So yeah, and as you know, even individual investors who get in early to projects but aren't part of having to do any work, aren't part of the dev team, as it were, can make considerable returns. But it just happens to be a lottery, really, you know, as to which ones succeed and which ones don't.
Totally a lottery. It's totally a lottery. I've lost money on meme coins in the past, and I'm now kind of steering clear because it's just a total gamble. You probably have higher odds of just sitting down at a blackjack table and beating the dealer. I think you actually probably do. So it's definitely something financially I stay away. Culturally, though, I think it's fascinating, and I will link your article that we discussed in episode 122. I will link that in this episode's description for people to kind of go see. We are rounding out an hour now, and I know that we both have other things to do today. So if it's cool, I want to kind of end here. I think you and I have some collaborations we're thinking about, and we'll share them obviously with the community if they come to fruition. And if they don't, it's okay too, because I hope to have you on back as a guest, as like I said, one of the best authors in crypto that people maybe just don't know about. So I'm always happy to have you on, Brian. So as far as links, where should people find you? I was going to put down your blog link as well as your LinkedIn. Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to connect with people on LinkedIn, and then my Substack is simply incrypto.substack.com. So
yeah, I'm gonna add those links down in the episode description. And it is always great to catch up with you. You're one of the few people I think I keep good connectivity with here or there on LinkedIn. We just kind of share stuff. Hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see this? Hey, check this out. One of the things we didn't touch upon, but maybe we can do on another episode, is all your AI art, because you've been doing a lot of that and you've been getting really good at it. So I think maybe we should set aside a time in the future. If you are willing to come back on, that would be great. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please go ahead and subscribe. Follow us on socials at More Than Blockchain, and share this with somebody if this is interesting. I think AI to AI exchanging value on the internet over cryptocurrency should be something everyone should be interested in. So please go and share that. And Brian, thank you once again for taking the time.
Thanks a lot. Great to chat.